Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
I'm Jill Friedman, and I've seen everything.
Everything. You have seen everything. Well, technically...
No, I haven't. I mean, I've seen everything in this show.
I was going to say, like, everything in the Gravity Falls universe.
That's true.
Gravity Falls cinematic universe.
This is true.
And most of the fandom nonsense.
You know, I wouldn't even say I've seen most of that because, well, again, I didn't get into the show until it was almost over. So there was like several years of fandom drama and happenings and what have you that not only did I miss, because it all happened on Tumblr, it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Oh, it's just lost to the ages.
Yeah. Like dust in the wind.
I mean, like, it's one of those.
The rain.
It's always so sad because it's like you always think the internet's going to be forever, and then you find out the internet is also fallible, and you're like, no. You were the chosen one.
Exactly. Oh, God.
But yes, we're here to talk about Gravity Falls Season 2, Episodes 16 and 17. We are saving the last 4 as a big conglomerate finale nonsense because that's kind of how it goes down. They're individual episodes, but yeah, the show kind of dropped all that mess as like a movie, but spaced out between episodes. But it is very good. I'm looking forward to the finale too.
I'm really excited. Yeah. I'm very excited,
especially with the way the second episode ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, we start with a road trip. Not a filler episode, because I think it is
trip.
A vengeance trip. Yes, I am corrected. It is 100% a vengeance trip because Grunkle Stan always gets pranked by the other side. I literally just said the words like 3 seconds ago and I forgot what they are. Roadside attractions. There we go.
Yes.
He always gets pranked by these roadside attraction people. So this year, he's decided to go on this long road trip to prank all of them in revenge.
And so it's not just for sightseeing. It's a vengeance trip. Well, for Grunkle Stan anyway. Obviously, Mabel invites her besties, right? Obviously. Grenda and Candy.
Yes.
Seuss comes along for the ride.
And Seuss.
I'm so glad. Seuss comes along for part of the vengeance trip. Cough, cough.
He had his own little adventure.
As
so
Seuss
a
does.
quick note on the whole filler episode thing. There's a video that I recently watched where it was like, I figured out why roadside attraction falls where it does. Because there was a whole lot of discussion in the fandom of why do this episode so close to the end? Like, was it supposed to be earlier? Like, what happened? And they did a retcon in the third journal. Because in the third journal, what happens is Dipper gives the journals back to Ford.
Right.
And he starts writing it again, right? And so he goes, the rift containment unit is cracking. So it's him mentioning this in the universe like a week earlier, right? And he says, so the journal goes, the rift containment unit is cracking. I suggested it would be a good time for Stan to take the kids on that road trip he's been talking about while I puzzle over this problem. So I'm pretty sure that's just like a cheeky retcon, but it at least gives some reasoning behind why now exactly.
Right.
It's not so much a why now. I also hate, like, just me personally, Joy, hi, how are you? Personally hate the term like filler episode anyway, because I always feel like it wouldn't have gotten made if it didn't actually serve a purpose. And like, a lot of the things we call filler episodes, I don't consider filler episodes. I feel like it's a dirty word anyway. I don't like to use it.
It's not a kind term.
Yeah. And it's mostly, and for those of you unfamiliar, filler episodes, I think sort of started in the anime genre, if I'm not mistaken, where it was like
anime or the X-Files or possibly
It's so funny to me
simultaneous.
because it's like you can't call a Monster of the Week show having filler episodes. Like
Right.
it's Monster of the Week. Every
Like, what's
week
the
is
filler?
different.
I think what happened was that by the time that idea got like suggested,
Right.
the meta plot of the X-Files had completely taken over.
That's fair.
So it's like, it wasn't, filler episodes didn't really exist in the first couple of seasons, but once
Yeah.
you get to like 95, 96, and, you've got like the movie and all of that kind of stuff, then any episodes that don't further the meta plot, people were like, come on.
Yeah. Which I think is, I'll sort of accept it. There's, as a person who has seen all of the except for some of the recent seasons, but as a person who's seen all the old 90s X-Files, I can tell you there are some episodes where I'm like, I'm not entirely sure why this got made. I feel like the X-Files itself would have benefited from like a 10 to 12 episode format. I feel like they did have like 23 episodes a season or something ridiculous, and like that's a lot of TV. But it's just funny to me because they're all Monster of the Week episodes. So literally what you have is like, you don't have a lot of character growth, right? You could almost argue that their filler episodes are the character growth because they just didn't do that in the normal routine. But like a filler episode is supposed to just be a kind of thing where it's like, why is this here? Where the audience kind of goes, hang on a second. What, but the plot's over there. Why are we staring at a sign? Or whatever, like why are we doing something else? This is not furthering the plot.
Yeah. And I think in regards to Roadside Attraction, like I think it's an important story for Dipper because it really is. I was when I was rewatching this, the whole thing where Dipper acknowledges like the problem of his crush on Wendy. He acknowledges it's a problem. He acknowledges it's his problem, which is crucial. And
I mean, he acknowledges that he blew it.
He acknowledges that he blew it, but he also like acknowledges that he blew it. He didn't acknowledge it was never going to happen to begin with.
I mean, that's still my favorite. My favorite Stan line is literally one word of him just being like, chances.
That
I'm
was
like,
good.
we are all Grunkle Stan in this moment.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny because I love that line, but that was that wasn't the moment where I was like, we are all bubba bubba. The moment I felt that was when Mabel goes, bro, I thought you were finally past all this. And I was like,
That's true.
Mabel.
We are also all Mabel.
But again, actually, though, Jill, I'm with you on this. Like, I feel like this was an important. I think that this episode had to happen here because it wouldn't have been meaningful if it had happened any earlier in the show.
Right.
Like, I don't think that we would have gotten the same perspective on Dipper and whatever is going on with him. But I also think that all of the interactions between the characters, like Dipper, Candy, Mabel, Grenda, Grunkle Stan sort of place in that, Sue's getting left in the corn maze, like all of this, none of this would have been funny 15 episodes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think they set it up. I mean, I think that is part of the genius of Gravity Falls. Like, I don't think any episode feels like filler. Every episode serves a purpose. And it's like, the purpose isn't always, loud and proud. But, like, I think in this one, it's actually, with as much time as we focus on Dipper and his pickup artist skills, it's actually sort of a subtle lesson that Dipper learns, when it comes down to it. It's like, it's exactly like you said, like they set this up really well because we were also having like these flashes of, like Ford reading Dipper's mind and he's still thinking about Wendy. And like, I forget what it was. There was like something else. There was some like mention of Wendy in another episode or something. And it was just
there definitely was.
Yeah. And it was like, it was obvious that it was still on his mind in that way when like you get rejected by a crush and like you don't quite know how to move on and you're also 12. You're doing your best. You're 12.
But we had to wrap it up. We had to put a little bow on it. Right. And not to skip super ahead to episode the episode after this. But I also think that this episode serves as like one last summer adventure, right? Like one last hurrah before all of the feelings that happen in the episode after this.
Yes. And the only other time this possibly could have happened would have included Wendy in the episode. And personally, it's not, you know, as you said, it's not really about Wendy. No. It's about Dipper needing to come to grips with the fact that, no, bad, whap. But no, which, you know, I kid because I care. Like, I was 100% Dipper as a kid. Like, I had crushes left and right. Like, I completely understand where he's coming from. And it's like what got me over previous crushes was having another crush. It was stupid. It was a dumb way to try and go through childhood. Like, I mean, it made no sense.
If it ain't broke, no.
I mean, you just, you know, cycle. You just cycle and repeat.
Just cycle and repeat. I mean, listen. As Mabel and Sue said, a road trip is the perfect place to reinvent yourself and meet new people.
And make some mistakes.
Make some mistakes.
Fine. It's one of those things where it's like, if you keep cycling through unattainable, unrequited crushes, you never get hurt. It's the perfect solution. Look, I'm glad Dipper didn't take that away, you know, that takeaway. But also, can we just talk a second about Grunkle Stan and how he still describes himself as a pickup artist by the end of the episode, even though he's like, we as pickup artists tend to get dunked on. So I don't know why I was giving you all this advice.
Well, it's sort of that whole, like, not to bring up the pickup artist culture of the mid-aughts, but there's this weird, like, event horizon with it, right? Where there are people who legitimately need to learn how to talk to people. Right. And legitimately do need the experience of chatting someone up, asking them out, getting rejected, and like need that experience so it like builds up their confidence, builds up the experience. And like that was where the pickup artist thing had a hot second of being a net positive for the world.
Yeah.
And then
the Fire Nation attacked.
And then the Fire Nation attacked, exactly. And now we have Andrew Tate. Oh God. And like, but like, that's what Dipper needed, right?
Yeah.
Like he needed that, hey kid, go to Toastmasters, like, you know, do an improv class, like do these things that will get you out of your head, get you out of your like bad patterns and learn how to just talk to people.
Right.
Yeah.
Like learn how to talk to people. Good. And then you hit negging and it's like,
right, exactly.
You know, so sidetrack because that's what we do on the show. My wife is currently playing Baldur's Gate 3. We are currently in a throuple with Baldur's Gate 3. It's fine. And
how many playthroughs is she at now?
I don't know, but she's logged almost 600 hours.
Damn.
Nice.
All right,
and she hasn't beaten the game. And she hasn't beaten the game yet. But
I would like to state for the record that is more than I have played Power Wash Simulator, a game I have owned for like a year and a half.
Wow.
That I have played nearly 500 hours of.
Right. But yeah, no, like I feel like that's all, like we have these conversations about because, you know, with Baldur's Gate 3, there's like, you know, you can go the good path, you can go the bad path, you can like make the people you travel with better, you can make the people you travel with worse. And you have these options in like just the things you do in the game, right? Like you can opt to be like, hey, maybe we do kill all these tieflings for no reason or kill all these goblins for no reason. And the funniest thing for me about the fandom of Baldur's Gate 3 is the people who do choose the path of like murder hobo are complaining that the game isn't that good for murder hobos. Oh. And my wife and I look at each other and go, it's almost like if you do this in normal D&D, people no longer want to play with you.
Right.
It's almost like there aren't any benefits to being the absolute worst.
Right.
You know? And it's just funny to me because we sit here like, is there a way to not murder all the, you know, because sometimes they give you a thing and it's like the only option is to like murder all the things. Yeah.
Even the younglings.
Yeah.
The women.
He killed younglings. It's like, it's totally one of those things where you end up, you know, it's one of those things where you end up in this cycle of, you know, I guess I have to be good because the game really, really does good things for you when you are down that good path. You get amazing things. Like you get benefits, you get boons, you get other characters being like, hey, you saved my sister. You didn't know it was my sister, but now I'm going to help you do this. And it's like, it's so funny to me when it's just like, but maybe that's just people. Baldur's Gate is just people. Like, just be nice. You should just be nice.
Well, it's that whole thing, right? Like where people are like, why would I play a game and do the jerk option if I'm in a game like and I have the opportunity to be a good person and fix the world or be a bad person and screw over everybody? I'm gonna take the chance to fix the world. Like,
yeah,
I have to be honest. I will probably do both just to see what the options are.
Right.
I'm going to be that person that's like, but I need to know. It's like Danielle is like, I need to open every barrel.
If you give me 20 save files, I will use them. Right?
But like that's different than people who like habitually always choose Renegade.
Yes. Yeah. Always be renegading.
Yeah.
Renegade. Anyway, back to Gravity Falls. But like, I just thought it was I think you're right. I think it's a very like, you know, there's a level of needing to have that experience of like, of being in a position that like, yes, talk to a bunch of girls. Another very, very slight tangent. My grandmother, when I was dating my ex, was always very like, upset about that for reasons that inevitably I was like, I mean, probably because he was bad for me, but ultimately because she was also like, you shouldn't latch on to someone so young, so quickly, and then not date around. And I was like, Grandma, and she's like, no, you should be dating other people. I'm putting it out there. You shouldn't. Yeah. Because my grandmother got married when she didn't get married. She met her future husband when she was 16, got married at 18 and was having kids by the time she was 20. And so she's just like, you should date around. And I was like, Grandma, what? And it's just like the very opposite of like everything else you expect a grandmother to tell you of just like, yes, you should, you know, find the one and settle. And she's like, no. You taste your flavors. You go out there and you find it, you know.
Figure yourself out. Yeah.
But it's just, I just feel like a real kinship with Grunkle Stan. I feel like my grandmother would have been like, see, he gets it. Gotta go out there and talk to girls. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, you know, maybe don't string them all along, ask for their numbers, tell them you're going to call them back, and then never call them back. But go talk to them.
Maybe keep an eye out and see if they're half spider. I mean, I don't know.
Or that.
Yeah, did we all catch who the voice acting was on that character?
I did not. Who was that?
Chelsea Peretti.
Oh.
Why do I
Brooklyn
know that?
Nine-Nine.
Ah, thank you. Which I haven't actually seen. I know. Everyone can take their drink. They're non-alcoholic. They're non-alcoholic bingo drink.
See,
you
I
found
knew that
one
you
I
hadn't
haven't
watched
seen.
that one. That the only reason we haven't reversed the roles and watched that for this show is because we can't watch another cop show on this podcast.
Yeah,
but also
the propaganda of it all really has aged like milk.
Yeah.
There's the propaganda, which honestly, I don't know. Friends, there were a lot of shows that were propaganda when I was growing up. We're going to watch another propaganda show. It's just going to happen. We will do what we can to call it out when it happens.
Right.
But I also am just like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the whole podcast is just going to be like us quoting the show and being like, wasn't that funny? And while I do love that and I appreciate it and I celebrate it, I don't know if that's good to listen to. I don't know if that's good radio.
No, that just turns into that one Chris Farley bit where it's like, remember that time in the movie when you did the thing? That was awesome.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it for like an hour every 2 weeks or week. depending on when we drop it. And look, I'm sure I'll love it. I'll probably watch it at some point, and then we'll have like a little 5-minute segment of like, Joy's finally watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But we're not going to do an entire series of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's not going to happen.
But remember, kids, ACAB includes the Paw Patrol.
Yes. I've been seeing a lot of Paw Patrol on the kids going to school, and I'm just like, it's fine.
There's apparently a Paw Patrol experience in what used to be the Sephora in Columbus Circle.
Well,
really?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend who has a kid and got conned into going to it, and oh god,
this is a Willow Rosenberg joke. This is okay. So there's a joke that Willow and Buffy makes around Halloween because people start dressing up like witches, and she's like, but that's not witches. This is appropriation. That's not I'm a witch. I am super offended by all this. And then a very teeny tiny toddler witch walks up to her and wants to buy like a broom or something, or like a crystal ball. And she just gets down on her knees and she's like, oh, look at your little hat and your little wart nose. She's perfect. And then she stands up again and her girlfriend is like, oh, what happened to appropriation? And she's like, but she's cute. And there's a part of me that's like, I get it. If your kids are interested in something and they watch something and maybe they're quiet for 20 minutes out of the day, who am I to be like, if they start asking questions about the show, they might get some answers from mommy that they don't like. But
yeah, apparently my friend does do ACAB rants about Paw Patrol that he finds hysterical.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's amazing.
If I had children that I was raising, I'm sure there would be. I can hear my wife now talking about Paw Patrol to our small ones. I can hear it.
It's Bluey or nothing.
Bluey at all costs. I also love Grunkle Stan being caught up in a web and calling. It's great.
On the walkie-talkies. The walkie-talkies really take center stage in these 2 episodes. And it's like we've never seen these walkie-talkies before. And yet in these 2 episodes, it's like, here they are.
It's like
Danielle.
the entire story.
It's the necklace. She was wearing the necklace the whole time.
Right?
This necklace that she's had around her neck the whole time.
So
really,
funny.
I've never seen it.
I feel like I've seen that before.
I feel like I've never seen this necklace before. Sorry, that's a shout out to Gallivant season 2. I'm gonna maybe I could hawk this gem, this precious gem I've had around my neck this whole time. This whole time? Yes. I've literally never seen you wear it. I'm pretty sure this is the first time. No, it's a family heirloom. I always wear it.
I never watched Gallivant. I think I watched like the first episode, but I stopped watching it because I got salty that it got renewed and Forever didn't.
You can't hold that against Gallivant.
They were both on ABC, is why.
Jill, you're going to make me do my stupid Firefly rant.
Oh, no.
So I had a friend who refused to watch Firefly because Firefly took the slot of, oh no, was it like Nikita or something? It was a show that was on at the same time on the same channel, and Firefly took
Angel?
that slot, something
No,
like that.
Dark Angel wasn't on Fox. Never mind.
It was like something took the same slot. Whenever Firefly aired, it took that slot. And she held it against Firefly for years.
Really?
And I was like, bro. I was like, it's not, number one, it's not Firefly's fault. Number 2, they also got canceled. Number 3, why? Why
Number
this
4,
hill?
they weren't in that time slot for very long because that's part of the whole problem.
Why this hill? Why are you dying on this hill and preventing yourself from enjoying a fun thing? Why? Bro, why? Like, I get upset when stuff I like gets canceled, but I don't blame the next show that comes after it. It's not the show's fault.
We blame David Zaslav because that's who did it.
I mean, you blame the producers. Anyway. I love that you haven't watched Gallivant because you're like, man, F that show. Why? Why?
It's great.
I mean, I've been meaning to go back to it because the
It
talent
was all
is
on
amazing.
Hulu. I don't know if it's still on Hulu.
It might be on Disney Plus at this point.
I'm a little sad that it's not Tom Ellis in the role of Gallivant. Now that I, like Lucifer Tom Ellis.
Yeah.
We missed out.
Maybe I would have liked Gallivant better.
Maybe you would have liked Gallivant. We spent the whole season talking about Gallivant, Jill, and Danielle was like, I still don't get it.
I don't get it. Like, I just, listen, we have to get back to Gravity Falls. But one of my biggest things with Gallivant was that part of the suspension of belief that I had to just do whatever watching the show, just accept. I had to accept that this man was handsome. I have to accept that he is charming. I have to accept that people are going to follow head over heels for him, But me, I was like, I don't see it. I don't know.
It was hilarious.
I don't get it.
Who played Gallivant again?
Oh, what a great question. I actually don't think I can say his name. Okay. His name is weird. Hang on. It's got like a spelling to it that I'm always like, I'm saying it wrong. I was like, I'm saying it wrong. I'm just saying it wrong. Joshua Sasse, S-A-S-S-E.
Okay. Couldn't pick that guy out of a lineup to save myself.
That's okay, me neither.
It's like Tom Ellis, but less charismatic.
We have Tom Ellis at home.
I'm such a fan of Tom Ellis. Anyway.
What are we even talking about? Roadside attraction. Which roadside attraction in this episode would you actually go and visit?
The giant ball of yarn. Hands down.
Giant ball of yarn. Interesting.
Oh, sure. The fiber artist wants to go to the ball of yarn.
Would you climb?
I take it up crochet again.
Hey!
Oh, would you climb inside the ball of yarn, Joy?
If I was allowed, but only if I was allowed.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Mabel wasn't, but
I know. That's what I mean. I'm pretty sure the kids just decided that was okay. And I was like, oh, absolutely
the thing that
not.
sent me about that moment is like, there was no like velvet rope. There was no,
Nope.
There was no like guard. There was no one. Wasn't even anyone else around.
You didn't even get tickets. You didn't.
Right. So like, for Mabel just to be like YOLO and dive right in, like no one was gonna stop her.
I also love
just for
her
kicks.
friends following her in.
Yeah.
And Grenda leaving a hole.
Oh, man.
I will say though that like as far as pranks go, like my general feeling about pranks is that they shouldn't cause permanent harm. Like if something causes permanent harm, it is no longer just a prank. Right? But so the fact that his prank was, let me take apart the entire ball of yarn so now you don't have a roadside attraction, I was like, that's not a prank, buddy.
Same.
I don't want to know how they drove away with it without it getting like caught in the wheels and the axles and stuff.
Right? They must have cut it off after like a mile or something. They were like, this is not happening.
Just enough to pull it apart.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So the one I would visit is gotta be Upside Down Town.
See, I would do that, except I know Joy, would hate it. I would not physically be able to do it. If I was a cartoon, I would enjoy the heck out of that. But I'm not a cartoon. I am made of flesh. And I can't.
I am made of flesh, and gravity is a cruel mistress.
Yes. Like I get motion sickness in a car. I am not going to upside down myself in a
and just Velcro your shoes to the ceiling and walk upside down through an entire attraction. That cracked me up because
I was like, that Velcro is doing a lot of work.
A lot of work.
I mean, like, sell the patent to your Velcro, not just as a roadside attraction, buddy, because, like, the fact that you have shoes that no one is falling out of. No one.
Like,
no one fell out of their shoes.
What's the weight limit on those shoes?
The kids were running. And I was like, I don't know if you've ever seen a kid run, but they do not have all feet on the Velcro at all times.
Yeah.
Their toes are doing some work. Like, what is happening?
Like, it would just all be that moment when Dipper jumps.
Yes, exactly. It would just be a constant children like, wee. like falling out the ceiling. But of course, Danielle, of course you want to do that one.
Of course I want to do that one. And I love, I love the hamster wheel you have to get into to be flipped upside down before you can even enter. Like, that was fabulous.
I do actually genuinely love that. I think that's funny. I think you could just spin around on that, and that would be its own roadside attraction.
Yeah. Exactly. See, love that. Would do that. Would go to Upside Downtown. But also, I'm not going to lie, I want log on a stick.
Right?
Yeah, I want log on a stick.
Who doesn't want log on a stick?
It's log. It's big. It's heavy. It's wood.
Absolutely.
To go back to the ball of yarn for a second, when Dipper is talking to Grunkle Stan, he's like, I unravel like... Yeah. Well, I can't think of an analogy right now, and he's like standing in front of the ball of yarn.
No. My favorite thing about that, I mean, yes, like he's standing in front of the ball of yarn. But my favorite thing about that is that the cinematography in this cartoon show is so brilliant. That they understand, like, what is supposed to have power when you frame a shot.
Yes.
And the common thing in film and television, and actually I recently started watching Has Been Hotel, which also does this very well, is they're able to frame a shot and use the cinematography to show you what has power in this shot. When he's talking about, I unravel like a, I don't have the words for it right now. He is opposite Grunkle Stan. The two of them are shoved out of the way into the opposite sides of the frame, and the ball of yarn is center.
Dead center.
And I'm like, this is filmmaking, and I can't explain to people how genius it is.
The ball of yarn with Grenda and Mabel on top, unraveling it.
Unraveling
dead center.
literally doing the verb that Dipper cannot conjure.
Yes.
So to your point, Joy, the writers of this episode were Jeff Rowe, Josh Weinstein, and Alex Hirsch. I do not recall Jeff Rowe's background at the second, but Josh Weinstein is like an OG Simpsons writer.
That makes sense.
So like he's from like the golden age of the Simpsons, and so that is like peak like 1993 Simpsons kind of visual gag.
Yeah,
which absolutely tracks.
Yeah, no, that's 100% how that works.
There's a really sweet moment in the DVD commentaries where Alex Hirsch talks about meeting Josh Weinstein for the first time, because he's an 84 baby, so he's like grew up on The Simpsons, and I forget if like Josh Weinstein reached out to him or he reached out to Josh Weinstein, and he came in to meet Alex Hirsch at Disney, and Alex Hirsch was like expecting like this like really like arrogant big shot kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And there's just this like guy sitting, in like the couches in the lobby. And it is just like the sweetest, most unassuming dude who just has written some of the best television ever.
I love that.
I mean, my favorite thing is a TV writer for a cartoon, because I feel like they don't get... Like, yes, there's praise to be had and there's awards to be won, and there's like, and the fans will, the true fans or whatever, but like the deep hardcore fans will like know who they are and want to meet them and things, but it's not like it's not like people...
They're not going to get recognized at the mall.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not you are an A-list celebrity, you can't even leave your house.
Right.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing about that is just like, you just did something cool, man.
Yeah.
And there's something about like, I hope your ego hasn't gotten too big, because, man, I just want you to keep working.
Right. And that was sort of the vibe that Alex Hirsch was mentioning in this commentary, where he was like, he had never met him before, so he had no idea like what kind of person he was, and was bracing for, well, I wrote for The Simpsons. No. Mm-hmm. Just solid dude all around.
Absolutely not. I love that. I love everything about that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, wait. What else do we want to talk about in episode 16 before we move on to talking about episode 17?
I think I want to talk about Candy.
I was going to say Candy and Dipper.
Yeah.
So there's a moment when Dipper goes, when Mabel sort of contrives for Dipper and Candy to sit together in the back.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Candy goes, Candy Chu's 6th grade. We just learned something. Candy Chu is a year younger than Dipper and Mabel.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
Is it only 1 year younger?
Yeah. No, they're going into 8th grade. And so if she's going, I'm assuming she's going into 6th grade. Or going into 7th grade and had just completed 6th grade.
That would make sense.
Oh. I didn't really put that together for some reason.
I think
know
my
why.
brain thought Mabel and Dipper were going into high school, which for me is 9th grade.
Yeah.
They're going into 8th grade.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because Mabel says in the next episode, not spoilers for 20 minutes from now, Mabel says, next year we're going to go into high school.
Which makes sense because, like, turning 13 in 8th grade would be, like, a very young 8th grader.
I mean,
yeah.
So their birthday is August 31st. Like,
yeah.
They're very plausibly even too young to go into 8th grade this year.
Yeah.
Depending on your school district or what have you. But
that's fair.
That's
interesting.
That's degree of getting into the weeds. Even I'm a little about.
All right. So Candy, a year younger than them, is newly enamored by Dipper and his newfound confidence.
Right. Which goes back to the whole thing of, like, the one upside of pickup artistry is the point before it turns into
Yeah.
The douchebaggery. It's your toe in the line, Friedman.
I'm a maverick. I do what I want.
Do what I want.
And then I'm just gonna spew a line of the seven dirty words that you'll just go beep 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 beep.
Yeah, the George Carlin. Just be a line of bads. But yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. He learns confidence. But I also really like that Candy is like, things happen on a road trip. And also, you ran away like a wimp. So I'm over it.
Yeah.
And there's something about that I really like.
Well, it's sort of, we've seen Candy have backbone before. So seeing her flustered in this episode is new and weird. Mm-hmm. And so for her to, when that happens, it's sort of like her returning to herself a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. I mean, Candy also literally saves all of their lives in this episode.
100p.
Like, Candy, the real MVP.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, Candy and Grenda, right? Grenda rips apart the webbing. Like, I love when she runs through the tunnel. It's like...
My favorite thing is Grenda just using her size.
Yes. It's fantastic.
Just use that size, baby. Just do it. I love the running joke of, like, Paul Bunyan answering Grunkle's Dan. Because Grenda's voice, she just got she's a bass. She can't help it.
Tube and throat singing.
Yes. And I don't know. I like Candy just kind of being like, I read these pamphlets and brochures because you said they weren't going to be useful.
And guess what?
It's so funny. That makes Candy 11.
Oh,
while they're all 12.
Aw, she's so young.
I know. She's
and yet
baby.
so self-assured.
Also in the next episode, I mean, we could just transition into talking about the next episode because we're already running out of time.
Okay.
The next episode is also just very funny with her talking about, what was it, music camp?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
summer.
oh, I feel that hard. I feel like I feel that hard. If I wasn't going to music camp, I feel like I had friends who were going to music camp and they were going to Asian music camp, and that was no joke. And it was just like, nope, we're not seeing them for like 3 weeks. It's not happening. Is it a sleepaway camp? No, it's a day camp. We just won't see them.
Right.
We just won't.
The thing that confused me a bit about that, though, is like, why is this happening at the end of the summer? Like,
because band practice. I don't know.
I mean, obviously,
it
it's a whole like because the plot needs it to happen kind of thing. But like,
Sure.
When in like the mid-aughts, there's an event in Pennsylvania every summer called Penzic. It is a what if a Ren Fair was Burning Man, basically. And it used to be the first 2 weeks in August.
Yeah.
And then in the mid-aughts, they had to move it earlier to the second week or the end of July and the beginning of August because so many school districts were starting earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
And so
they moved up the first day of school.
Right. So it's weird to me that in 20 blah, 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 whatever, they're like, yes, obviously there will be a summer camp at a point where most schools are now already back in session.
Right.
That's fair. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, to be fair, I was going to camp in the 90s, which was very different.
Oh, for sure. Like when I was in middle and high school, the summer camp I went to was on a college campus, and I remember the end of summer camp was like really cutting it close to when those students were coming back to campus.
Right. Which makes sense. College has always come back so early, though.
Yeah.
I also love Grenda reason for not being there. It's like, oh right, she's dating a prince. And it's like, it's not like I forgot about it for any particular reason. It's not like I was like, wow, what a weird, like, no, more power to her. But I forgot that they would have still been talking. And it would have been like, it's the end of the summer. I'm going to fly you out to Austria.
Sure, why not?
What? But poor Mabel, of course, was so excited about saying goodbye to everyone and saying goodbye to the summer.
Getting to
this
throw
giant
a big
birthday party. Because twins do birthdays best, right?
Yeah.
And instead discovers that her two best friends are not going to be there and are not going to be able to say goodbye to her at the end of the summer.
And that high school is not all, maybe not all it's cracked up to be.
No.
Maybe high school is the worst.
We get some pretty cute moments, I think, in this episode. Like, I love when Mabel is sitting in her room and she's so sad and she's looking at her photo album and Grunkle Stan actually comes in to check on her.
And like sits next to her like crisscross applesauce.
Yes. It is so cute. I think he even uses a pet name for her that I cannot quite remember. Like it might be like, like calling someone Pumpkin, I
believe it is Pumpkin. Actually, let me get
Pumpkin?
Let me get the
transcript.
I
didn't have a chance to write it down, but I was like, oh, we never get to see them like this. Even though we know they have this really special relationship, the show doesn't really let us in on it often.
I know. Well, not in like the sympathetic moments. Like we get to
call
see
her Pumpkin, by the way.
Yay!
Yes, I knew it. All right.
Like we really more get to see them interact when it's on an adventure or it's on a, whatever. Like it's a very, I feel like it's a very sort of coded relationship of like they just kind of get each other, but we never actually get to see them get each other.
Right.
Until this episode.
And a lot of times when they get each other, I think you're right, Joy. It's more like we're adventure buddies or we're going to make fun of Dipper together, or we're going to get ready for the finale season, like the finale of this Duck Detective show together, It's not.
Still my favorite thing that he's so obsessed also with this Duck Detective.
The lamp shading, by the way, I don't think we mentioned it in the last episode, but the lamp shading of why adults are watching Gravity Falls with Duck Detective. Just so good.
Very good. 10/10.
Like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I love, it's such a beautiful metaphor for like becoming a teenager. Like, and then everything is different, like it's one of those things where I don't think I probably had like a weird, like I became a teenager, but it didn't quite sink in, I think, the way it does for other people. And it sunk in for me much later. And I actually enjoyed my high school experience. I'm a bit of a weirdo in that also. Like,
you also went to a pretty cool high school.
I did go to a pretty cool high school. Not to brag, but like everybody in my high school is awesome. My high school could beat up your high school.
I mean, handily.
I honestly, they couldn't. My high school could not beat up probably any other high school, but we could have a major dance off and probably beat you at karaoke.
Joy, like, don't forget that I went to a tiny fundamentalist Christian.
That's right,
high
I forgot.
School. The only thing we come swinging with are Bible verses, you know, and they don't do a lot of damage.
It would be like when Yale and Harvard play football.
Oh God.
It's that running joke of like the Ivy Leagues are playing football. Whoops. Let's see who manages to score this game.
All to say, which was my description, was a really short way of saying I did not enjoy my high school experience, but for very specific reasons.
For very specific reasons. But yeah, no, like I also, for a long time, I think I didn't, like, I had to look retroactively back at being a teenager and be like, yeah, I mean, it was kind of difficult. Like, there was this, like, there were growing pains, and there was, like, you know, learning how to be an adult. You know, like, those are the first times where you get some real responsibility, and you know, like, the things you say matter, and you know, like, you're able to, like, sort of form your own thoughts, have your own wants, and, like, do things on quote unquote on your own, you know?
Right.
And I think retroactively I looked at that and I was like, oh yeah, that was really hard. I don't think I'd want to do that again. No, thank you. But like, I didn't feel it while I was going through it. So I know that's not the experience for everybody. A lot of people are like 11, 12, and then suddenly it's like, like a curtain drops and they're 13 and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be alone in my room in the dark. I don't like anything that's happening right now, you know? And I feel like that's what Mabel is going through. It's like there is so much change so quickly. Mm-hmm. And she can't process. Who could? Nobody could process all the things that happen on the worst day. She's had the worst day.
The worst day.
And it just, like, it's bad thing after bad thing for Mabel. Meanwhile, Dipper's just like,
having the best he's ever had in his entire life.
Right?
Hanging out with his nerdy grunkle. And, like...
Who, like, by the way, offers him this apprenticeship that would require him to drop out of school, move to Gravity Falls, separate from his family. And I'm like, dude, he's got, like... What if you just, like, let him graduate high school? You know?
Also, I'll maintain 12 PhDs. My dude eventually went back to school.
Right.
Why are you so mad at your brother? I don't know. I have a lot, like, look, Ford has a lot of trauma that he's not dealing with, but that doesn't give you the right to be like, it's like cool motive, still murder. It's like, just because you're a loner doesn't mean you have to make your great nephew also a loner.
Right. Yeah. I know. That was
because you're lonely, man. Like, don't.
It's just like,
ruin this kid's life.
Felt like he was taking advantage a bit, you know, and I don't love that.
Oh, no, he 100% is. Like, I also really like that we don't get a beat on Grunkle Ford, right? Like, we don't have it. We don't really have, like, it's not like he's a villain because he's obviously related to them and he's obviously, you know, he has a lot of knowledge and he's been doing a lot of stuff. But, like, he's also not family. He doesn't hang out with them. He doesn't go on adventures with them. He's got his own thing going on, you know, and he's so used to being alone. And so it's also just like, he's just kind of there.
Right.
And then, like, I think him wanting Dipper to be with him is the manifestation of his loneliness too, of being just like, but you understand all of this and you and I could just rock together all the things I'm doing. Meanwhile, he almost gets shot into space.
Right? Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, listen, I think part of it is that and the fact that he's been alone for so long, but I can't help but feel that some of it is also just that he loves having a little guy around who's going to look up to him and that he can spew all of his knowledge to, and someone's just going to look at him big and wide-eyed and soak it all up, you know? Because, like, at the end of the day, he's your Uncle Stan's brother, right? And the two of them could not be more different and yet could not be more the same in the fact that they're both just kind of narrow-minded, selfish people. Like, they care about what they care about. You know?
That's exactly right.
Well, I mean, we sort of see it in A Tale of Two Stands, like the ways in which they both were traumatized and how their respective traumas are very incompatible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And so what then happens later does not give either of them any time to process, recover, deal with any of it. So it's like Uncle Stan has just been spending, the last 30 years trying to correct this error, but has done that thing where you don't think about what happens after, right?
Right.
So there's no thought of like, all right, I bring Ford back. Okay, now what?
Right. Yeah. Like, how do I repair this relationship?
Right. And he thought that just bringing him back would repair it. Obviously, that was not the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I don't know, man. Ford can really hold a grudge.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, like, also, there's a part of me that's just like, Ford, buddy, I understand that your brain is too much of a logic puzzle. I get it. You can't unpuzzle this puzzle. You can't add the feelings after the fact. I mean, this is all, like, maybe this is also a product of, like, Dipper and Mabel being, a boy and a girl twin. You know what I mean? Like, if Mabel had been, born a boy and had that toxic masculinity poured all over him, who knows what would have happened? I think Stan, on more than one occasion, comes off as extremely toxically masculine.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just like, yeah,
But again,
okay,
consider the source. Like, look at their dad. They had no positive models.
100%. But also, Ford just shuts out everything off and is like, okay, so you're made of emotion and passion. So I'm just going to be like a robot.
The opposite. Yeah.
And I'm just like, Ford, buddy, pal, come on, man. Come on.
It's not how this works. It's not how any of this works.
I mean, you could even rewind it further of just like, sure, Stan was like, assuming it would just work if he brought Ford back. Ford, as soon as Stan shows up in the first place to like help him, is just like, doesn't even say, hey, hi, nice to see you. It's just like, hey, I've got a mission for you.
Yeah.
And Stan's like, you don't talk to me for like 20 years and you're like, here, take this book and run away.
Yeah.
That's not how this works, bro.
Not how this works. But you know what my brain just did? My brain just went the human equivalent of no filler episodes.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
And
no one liked it. No one was happy.
No one was happy. You can't just go down, you can't just get down to business right away every time. That's no fun. You need a beach episode sometimes. You need a vengeance trip.
Sometimes.
Just as an aside that has nothing to do with Gravity Falls, the beach episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender is possibly one of my favorite episodes of a show ever.
Yeah, period.
Yeah, no, my favorite thing about that is that's how they got around asking for a clip episode. The rumor going around is like Nickelodeon asked them to do a clip show, and that's what they decided to do. I don't know how real that is, but I have accepted it. It is now my headcanon.
I mean, one of the few things that I really genuinely love about Legend of Korra is how they did the recap episode in season 3 or 4.
Same.
The framing device on that was
I might have a love-hate
brilliant.
relationship with that show, but that episode is very good.
I also have a complicated relationship with Korra, but the stuff that they did well, they did really well. And that was one of them.
But yeah, I think we're at I think we're basically at one more thing. The last thing that happens in the second episode is, of course, Mabel. The last terrible thing to happen is that Dipper is going to not go back to California with her, going to stay in Gravity Falls with Grunkle Ford.
She overhears this whole thing on the walkie-talkies, which again, major part of these 2 episodes.
Coming back.
And I just I wish she didn't have to hear that way, because I do wish we could have gotten how Dipper would have explained that if he had even explained it at all. I don't like it in general as a plot device when it's I overheard a thing.
Yeah.
because it's, leaves things out and
Well,
blah, blah, blah.
it gets you to the awful trope if these two people just had a conversation.
Right.
Yeah. But it's like, but that's what's also very funny because I feel like Dable. I feel like Dable, like Dipper and Mabel, are actually very good at talking to each other.
They are. It's true. It's almost like in this specific case, there had to be something like a walkie-talkie.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have sat her down and the conversation would have went not well. It was never going to go well.
Right.
But it would have been better.
But yeah, I mean, I also understand, like, we're under the time constraints of how many episodes we have left, and you want to keep the momentum going, and as a plot device, it works much better if this happens. But, like, this is also going to be, and I don't exactly remember when it happens, and I might be misremembering it, but if I'm not mistaken, like, this becomes sort of a weird bit of tension because it's like, well, the last thing you said to me was that you were going to leave me. And it's like, right, but then you left and now we have Weird Mageddon on our hands. Yes. So it's like where but did
also like we have Weird Mageddon on our hands because like maybe you should have told me about the very dangerous
volatile thing
that
in your backpack.
You are just keeping willy-nilly in a backpack that anyone could pick up, buddy. Like,
because
hey, little buddy.
Because Ford is also a weirdo. Why didn't you put it back in the case, my bro?
Just anything.
You had a valise in the shape of the thing. You had the thing in the thing. Why?
Oh, no. Let me just throw this flimsy glass globe into a backpack. Loosely into a backpack.
Your Weird Mageddon snow globe has a crack in it. We're just going to toss it to the kid, I guess.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, didn't it have the adhesive on it at this point?
I don't think Dipper put the adhesive on it yet.
No,
I think
he was supposed to. That's how he found out he had Mabel's backpack.
That's right.
Because Ford was like, hand me the thing, buddy, let's do this. And he was like, oh, I can't. I don't have the right backpack.
Yep.
And it turned, and just Mabel just pulls it out. Oh, is this what you're looking for?
Right.
Which, by the way, I don't want to feel bad for what's his name, but I did feel bad for what's his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor future boy.
I mean, listen, we're never going to be happy to see someone possessed, probably against their will, right? Like, that's
probably. Mostly, kind of.
Mostly, kind of. Yeah.
I just love the narrative skill in getting it and having it be Blandon because he does wear those goggles, so it would be impossible to see his eyes.
Exactly. I love it. No, like, as a plot device, I love it. I do feel bad for him, and I feel bad that I feel bad for him because he doesn't deserve pity. But he doesn't deserve much. Blandon.
He doesn't deserve much, but does he deserve being possessed by Bill Cipher?
He does deserve a little better than he got.
Yeah.
It's like, of all of their quote-unquote bad guys, I feel like Blandon had it the most together. Which is saying something.
Well, also, Blandon wasn't even really necessarily a bad guy.
Yeah.
He was just sort of a victim of circumstance
he self-created.
And took it out on the kids.
He, self-manifested himself as a bad guy. He made himself the bad guy. It was 100% a self-fulfilling prophecy that he just ended up being the bad guy. I think my one more thing is maybe it's Dipper getting all those numbers and emails and then not
and
having
in the hot tub holding his arms
being
up.
in the hot tub holding his arms above his head. The boy walks around with a notebook that he was just writing in to write down the advice that Grunkle Stan was giving him. And I'm just like, my dude.
I believe in the words of Roger Rabbit because it's funnier this way.
Because it's funnier this way.
Funnier this way. And B, you have to imagine that Dipper is getting more and more confident, more and more comfortable. He's having women write their numbers on his bicep. Like, that is what this boy is doing.
Who is, by the way, how many times, had a girl gone, whose number is that?
Whose number is that?
How did he lie?
Mummies wearing short sleeves.
It's very obvious that it's like number. So, well, like, you notice that there are other numbers and other emails on this boy. Anyway, that's my one more thing.
I love that.
On this boy.
On this boy. Oh, no. And just like, what little girl looks at that and doesn't go, hang on a second.
This is sus.
Right? But then we wouldn't have our dramatic moment at the end of the episode where they all show up out of the woodwork. Because you know what? Because we're all on the same road trip. Like, that was the best part. The best part is that Grunkle Sam's like, you're never going to see these women ever again. These girls ever again. Because they are girls. And he did, because they're all on the same road trip. What else do you do? No.
I had one more
okay,
thing.
Go.
The daily mummies are because of the spider.
I don't really understand how the daily mummies work.
I just love that, number one, that means the mummies were real.
Yep.
And number two, I love Dipper being like, daily mummies? What? Like, and you're like, yeah, okay, obviously fake. And then you find out a spider is there and you're like, oh, hang on.
Oh, that's not
only
linen.
are the daily mummies real.
That's not linen. That's not linen.
Someone is harvesting them. That's someone being Darlene.
Exactly.
I have one more things, one of which was Darlene related. We never talked about the part of the episode where Darlene flips the script on Grunkle Stan.
Oh, yeah.
And I do kind of love that bit where, like he thought that he was pulling, the wool over her eyes and manipulating and charming her. But in fact, it was the other way around. And she's using him for his body. Fine. Cool.
Yeah, up until I showed you I was a giant spider. Who did you think was in charge of this conversation?
And then just visually, when she slips into something more horrifying, but what that means is she opens her mouth wide enough that the inside envelops the outside, and now she just has a spider head.
Yeah. No,
I felt like I had to. That was great. That was fantastic.
I mean,
it's not,
A+ horror.
I'll put it like number maybe like 3 or 4 on the horror list. Like, listen, actually, maybe in our wrap up episode, we can actually rank the horror moments in this show. So I'm going to hit pause.
I would love that.
I'm going to hit pause on what was about to be a spontaneous ranking of the horror moments.
Right.
But we'll say that this is probably in the top 5.
Yeah. I mean, the ones were for the cheap seats. They showed this to children.
Horrifying.
Okay, so that was number 1. I just felt like I had to talk about that. And number 2 was that I don't know if I just misheard it, but I don't think that I did. Was that when Mabel, Grenda, and Candy were playing their game, it wasn't just truth or dare, it was truth or dare or don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I desperately want to know what don't is.
I think don't was just
don't is you just don't play.
Yeah.
Really? It's not like it's not
because Candy. That's why when Candy was like, "Don't," Grenda's like, "You always choose don't."
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I love that it's truth or dare or don't, because if that had been true, I would have been the Candy. I would have always choose don't.
Don't.
I would have been like don't. No, thank you. But
I would prefer not to.
It's a very like consent driven.
Yeah.
Oh, did you just not really want to participate? You don't have to. And there's a part of me that's like, this feels perfect.
Yeah. Aw, that is kind of nice. Okay, I like that. I wasn't in the moment. I couldn't interpret what don't meant. So I thought maybe it was like the opposite of dare. Like you have to stop doing something. And I was like, that's an interesting category to include in this game, but cool.
Honestly, I would also play with those rules. But they would be all existential quandaries.
Oh, no. It wouldn't just be like, don't eat chocolate for a week. Yeah. It would be like...
Oh, man.
Don't... Okay, those are my 2 more things. Jill, do you have any?
The UFO?
We didn't talk
the
about
UFO.
the UFO.
Did not talk about the UFO. Like...
When did Earth... Oh, no. What was the Will Smith movie about Earth?
Independence Day, 1996.
No, the one with the fear aliens. Damn.
Huh?
I think it was after. I think it was afterwards.
I mean,
I'd have to look it up.
I feel like I'm playing my role in this podcast, in which I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't even know what you're talking. Is that the one where his son played his son? Okay. I don't remember the name of the movie, but I know what the movie you're talking about. But I don't know what you're going.
After Earth.
After Earth.
It was 2013.
Well, there you go. Okay.
That could have maybe been a thing, right? Because wasn't the show 2012? 2014?
The show started. This aired in 2015.
Hey, so maybe it was inspired. But yeah, no, that's all I could think of, because the whole thing in After Earth is the alien bad guys sense fear, and that's when they attack. So you have to not be afraid of them, and then they literally physically can't see you. And I was like, oh, weird, but that's like a robot. Why would the aliens have a security system that's like fear-based?
Right. Yeah.
Why wouldn't it just be like heat signature or something?
Signatures. Well, also, like, not to get like in the weeds or anything, but when Ford was
we don't do that on this show, Danielle.
Right? When Ford was explaining it to him, he was like, you have to control your fear because it can sense adrenaline. And I was like, dude, adrenaline comes from places that are not just fear. Like when
Danielle, if doing this show has taught us anything, we know that what is it?
The pituitary gland.
The pituitary gland is the problem.
It's back to haunt us. Like when Dipper was standing up to the security system at the end, and he was no longer afraid, but was like making himself bigger and more aggressive. I'm like, there is clearly adrenaline coursing through his veins. That's how that
had
works.
That thought too. I was like, you can be afraid and also brave. The two are not necessarily independent. No, yeah, I actually did love all the things with the spaceship. I know we're kind of dunking on it a little bit, but I really love that, like, Ford was like, I've been down there a million times. I was like, Ford. I was like, I envy you, kid. You're just finding out aliens are real for the first time.
That's when he stole all of the material for his machine. I mean, ridiculous. Come on.
I know. This is the necklace. The necklace I've had around my neck this whole time. Grunkle Ford, we couldn't have gone spelunking into the spaceship like any other week.
Well, he didn't know he was going to need the adhesive.
I know, but like, wouldn't you think? This is also what I mean. Of like, Grunkle Ford doesn't want to be involved in anything. He wants to do his thing, his way. Whatever. He doesn't care what the kids are doing. He doesn't care what his brothers are doing. Mm-hmm. His brother is doing. He doesn't care about any of it. He just wants to do his thing. I'm like, you find out you have a niece and nephew and you don't bring them to the spaceship. That's not your first stop.
Right? Well, especially if he feels like it's not dangerous.
He was expressly requested to stay away from the children. Obviously that didn't hold.
Because he's done that so well.
I mean, the house is only so big.
I know, but this is like what was it in season 1 or something where it was like Grunkle Stan made the kids choose to like not go looking for weird stuff, and the two of them both had their fingers crossed behind their back. Right, and I'm just like, this family.
Dipper, what did I tell you not to do?
This.
Raise the dead. And what did you do? I raised the dead.
There's
That's my favorite part about
that. In the couch cushions.
There's still a zombie hand in the couch cushion. I forgot about that.
I can't throw parties in the Mystery Shack anymore. I'm still finding bits of undead in the couch cushions. Love it.
Bless.
Okay. On that note, have we come to the end of the podcast episode?
We've come to the end of the podcast. Next week will be the last 4/3 episodes, depending on where you're viewing the show, which we just found out while we were talking about it earlier today.
Standardization in episode numbering? We don't know her.
We don't know her. She don't go here. We're going to be watching the rest of the series. How about that? From episode 18 on, wherever you watch the show, and then after that we'll be having a wrap up episode. Woo-hoo. We're so close to the end. Penultimate.
Jill, you want to share your deets?
Yes, you can find me on Blue Sky at MXLABRADORITE. I remembered it that time. Did not read it off the thing. Yay!
Very nice.
I am also on YouTube as Jill Friedman, so Google it. Or DuckDuckGo. Or Bing, if you're that kind of weirdo.
Love that. And if you are looking for more Bach Pod, we would love to hear from you. Please check out Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, what is your favorite roadside attraction? And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BachPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.